Welcome to 5D University, everybody, and today's topic is the prophecies of the Golden Age. So we've talked about the ascension, what the ascension is, the process of the ascension, and I just wanted to go through the prophecies and as well as a lot of the documentation that has been around for thousands and thousands of years that indicates and gives us the foundation to kind of understanding that the ascension is not just something that was made up. It's not something that, we just use as some sort of escape, or because there's a lot of people who are like, well, this idea that we're going into 5D, it's all just fantasy and it's just to escape real life. And the thing is that the way that we have lived in the third dimensional reality, as I talked about in the Ascension video, is not the way that we were designed to live. And some of the greatest prophecies that have been around for thousands and thousands of years have always indicated that humanity would get to the point where they would have to make a quantum leap in consciousness, a quantum leap in evolution, and that this goes through cycles, right? This is not just a new phenomenon. This is not something that just comes out of nowhere. We repeat cycles. Humanity has gone through the same cycle for the last 27,000 years, which has been where we make a leap of evolution to a higher state of consciousness. We move into a higher state of living, and we keep going around the spiral. And at the same time, we've also gone into depths of illusions at the same time, because after every point in history where we did make some sort of quantum leap, inevitably the illusion and the dark who benefits from this illusion seek to suck us back in. So we've gone through kind of like this roller coaster. But the roller coaster always comes full circle. And so there was always going to be a point where we finally did ascend out of the illusion. So one of the core prophecies that talks about this destined period of time is the Hopi prophecy. So if any of you have not looked into the Hopi prophecy, I really recommend researching it. And there's plenty of books and literature out there of the Hopis and the prophecies that they made. And remember that these ancient cultures had connection to the divine. So these prophecies were not just figments of the imagination. They were through many historical civilizations. They have been in touch with the galactics, and they have been in touch with the divine realms. And so I would say that these are not just prophecies, but this was divine wisdom that was given to these civilizations and to these peoples to write down and to then share with the rest of humanity. So I was going to read some excerpts from the rainbow prophecy. And the first part of the rainbow prophecy, it says, the rainbow prophecy, as it has come to be known, refers to the keepers of the legends and other myths that will be needed when the time comes to restore the health on earth. It is believed that these legendary beings will return to a day of awakening when all people will unite and create a new world of justice, peace, and freedom. And the Hopi prophecy specifically talks about the rainbow warriors, or the warriors of the rainbow. And they refer to the 144,000, which, as we know, is also listed in the Bible and elsewhere in, various documentations. The 144,000 have always been pegged as kind of this group of warriors, this group of light beings who was going to assist with this evolution of humanity. So this is a quote from the Navajo Hopi prophecy of the whirling rainbow. And it states, there will come a day when people of all races, colors, and creeds will put aside their differences. They will come together in love, joining hands in unification to heal the earth and all her children. They will move over the earth like a giant, great whirling rainbow, bringing peace, understanding, and healing everywhere they go. Many creatures thought to be extinct or mythical will resurface at this time. The great trees that perished will return almost overnight. All living things will flourish, drawing sustenance from the breath of our mother, the earth. The great spiritual teachers who walked the earth and taught the basics of the truth of the whirling rainbow prophecy will return and walk amongst us once more, sharing their power and understanding with all. We will learn how to see and hear in a sacred manner. Men and women will be equals in the way the Creator intended them to be. All children will be safe anywhere they want to go. Elders will be respected and valued for their contributions to life. Their wisdom will be sought out. The whole human race will be called the people, and there will be no more war, sickness, or hunger forever. Another quote is from Grandfather William Commanda from the Circle of All Nations Prophecies of the Seven Fires of Anishinaabe, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the ancient wampum belt. So this is a quote from this documentation that says, "In the time of the seventh fire, a new people would emerge. They would retrace their steps to find the wisdom that was left by the side of the trail long ago. Their steps would take them to the elders, who would ask to guide them on their journey if the new people remained strong in their quest. The sacred drum will again sound its voice. There will be an awakening of the people, and of the sacred fire will again be lit. At this time, the races will be given a choice between two roads. One road is the road of greed and technology, without wisdom or respect for life. This road represents a rush to destruction. The other road is spirituality, a slower path that includes respect for all living things. If we choose the spiritual path, we can light yet another fire, an eighth fire, and begin an extended period of peace and healthy growth." So this ties in to many other prophecies. But if we also look at things like the Bible, which is allegorical, it is not to be taken literally, but, a lot of the stories of the Bible were specifically misinterpreted. They were manipulated. Various books were removed. A lot of information was changed because the writers of the Bible had an agenda. But there are a few parts of the Bible that we know do carry a lot of seeds of truth. And one of those is the book of Revelations. And the book of Revelations does talk about the second coming. And again, that's allegorical because we are the second coming. Humanity being the second coming into the Christ consciousness. It talks about the rapture, which is really the ascension, where it states that all of a sudden there would be those left behind. And what that really means is that there would be those who were left in the old world, left in the third dimensional consciousness, while many would choose to ascend to the higher states of consciousness. Now, there was a lot of talk amongst the spiritual community for many years about would the earth actually split into two completely different places? And the answer is that there might have been a timeline for that, but that timeline no longer exists. But what we do know is that those who are vibrating at a higher level of consciousness do tend to be unseen by those in the lower states of consciousness. And this goes for all things, right? So if you're in a full consciousness state, that means you can see all energy. You can see everything in existence beyond just the physical realm. So that's why there have been many accounts of those who have reached those states of consciousness. They have been able to see into the etheric realm. They're able to see the fairies and the unicorns and the dragons. They're able to see the angels and the ascended masters and things like that. Whereas those who are in the lower states cannot, they don't have that level of perception. So there is a kind of, analogy that those who are stuck in the third dimensional consciousness, they can't see the truth. They can't see true reality. And so they're kind of left behind by those who are moving into the higher states of being and really being able to experience heaven on earth. But eventually all will come into one, where no one's really going to be left behind. We're all doing this as a collective. Now, there's also two other specific prophecies that really talk about this time as well, precisely these years, because the Hopi and the Book of Revelations and other prophecies, they give us the information that this time period would come, but they don't indicate exactly when, right? But we do have some other prophecies that tell us that this was the established time period for that cycle of evolution to come about. And so one, of course, is the Mayan prophecy. And I'm sure all of you remember the kind of freak out that happened in 2012, where everyone thought the world was going to end on December 21st, 2012, because the Mayan calendar ended. They made so many movies about 2012 and about the, so-called end of the world. And that was really a propaganda because they didn't understand the Mayan prophecy. The reason that the Mayan calendar ended on December 21st, 2012, was because that was the destined time period that we would enter the golden age of Aquarius. And the golden age of Aquarius dawned the time where we would begin to enter fifth dimensional consciousness, which exists outside of time. So the calendar ended because linear time would cease to exist, right? And so the Mayans were very skilled in terms of prophecy, and they were also very skilled with understanding the planetary movements. And so what they were basing this calendar off of was the cycles that the Earth goes through, which is known as the precession of equinoxes. It's a very scientific name for basically saying that approximately every 25 to 26,000 years, the Earth basically changes its position within the universe. And so they would use the precession of equinoxes to designate certain ages, certain time periods. So this is what is known as, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Dark Age, and finally the Golden Age. So the precession of equinoxes tells us of this cyclical nature that we would inevitably go through. And so the previous period of the past 27,000 years prior to, or 26,000 years prior to 2012 was known as the Age of Pisces. And that was, they labeled it, as many of you have seen this reference, the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the Dark Ages. So we were literally living in the Dark Ages for 26,000 years. And what that meant was that not only were we living in actual states of darkness, we were living in a third dimensional state of illusion. The planet experienced war and violence and greed and an absolute takeover by the dark. And so that's a very apt name for what we were living in. But it also was kind of a physical representation because during the Dark Ages, we actually had the least amount of light entering the planet from the sun. And as we know, light is consciousness. So during the Dark Ages, it was the time when the dark could take over this planet and keep us in the lower states of illusion and in the third dimensional state, because we didn't have enough consciousness streaming into the planet from the sun, from the photon belt. So it was much easier to manipulate our consciousness to staying in the dark, because light is literally consciousness. So since 2012, we entered officially the golden age of Aquarius. And we are now also in the position where we've changed positions in the universe and in the what we know as the solar system, which is a whole nother topic of what we believe the solar system to be. But we are in fact receiving high influxes of light now from the sun, also from the great central sun, and from the photon belt. And so this is also interesting, because we do have so much more light incoming. And what does light do? It activates the DNA. It raises the consciousness. So it was destined. There was nothing that could be done to stop this, because this is the way that Source set up the cycles. And so we are now receiving so much streams of consciousness, and it goes in line with the age of Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign. And so air as an element is communication, information. It's the sharing of wisdom and knowledge. It's clarity. And it's a free expression of all of that, right? Because air is swift. It moves how it moves. You can't contain air. You can't stop it. And many of you will have seen the representation of the Aquarian symbol is known as the water bearer. So many people get confused and think that Aquarius is a water sign, but it's not. It's an air sign. But it's symbolized by the water bearer who is pouring 2 buckets of water down to the earth. So Aquarius is air, and it's representing information and wisdom and knowledge, consciousness. But it's also represented through the water element, the giving of life to humanity, the flow, the natural flow that we are also entering as well, which is the feminine based paradigm, which is more about flow and is very water based, feeling, compassion, emotion, creative expression. That is also part of the golden age. So Aquarius is the perfect representation of that. And this is the time of the awakening, where we will finally come into the great remembrance. So again, it's this awakening, and the prophecies always spoke of this time because they knew that it was written into the divine plan. And the 144,000 are a key to that divine plan, in that the 144,000, along with Mother and Father God, have been incarnating for thousands and thousands of years to bring this planet to the point of its evolution. And so many of you will feel resonance with that you have been called, and you feel the resonance in your soul that you are part of the planetary ascension, that you have remembrances of doing this before. You have a remembrance of what you're here to do and your purpose. So, and there are many that do not have that awareness yet, but they certainly are going to come into it. So we are in the prophesied time period. And there's, so many ways we can look at it, from the astrological perspective, from the prophecy perspective, from the scientific perspective, but it all leads to the same thing, which is that in this moment we are going through the greatest quantum leap of consciousness that we have ever experienced. So it's not something that can be denied, and it's not something that has to be proven. It simply is. It is occurring now. So I hope that gives everybody a good kind of foundational understanding of the different prophecies we have, and also where these terms come from, like the 144,000, the golden age, and how that all intertwines with a lot of these ancient civilizations who, again, they had contact before. And they were given a lot of this information and divine wisdom to be put out there. And we've done this many times so that we could have that remembering, that we know exactly why we're here. We know we've been training for this moment, and we have arrived at it. So in the next video, I am going to cover the story of creation, as well as the story of Earth as I know it to be. So that we have a better understanding of how did we get here? How does it all come together? And for those who are looking for additional resources, please check out our home website at 5dfulldisclosure.org. And you can access the library, which has so many resources available that you can freely share or download, which includes guides and books and manuals on all different topics of the ascension process. And if anybody is looking for direct guidance or assistance on their journey, please do check out our sessions page on our website, as well as our mentorships. And of course, please feel free to share the material and the content with anyone that you feel that resonates. So thank you all for watching, and we'll be back soon.